closer than ever.
Right now, we are the top guys at the division where there's nowhere for us to turn.
When one faced a formidable foe and the other did not,
Terence, will you guys have a fight?
comparisons amplified.
Some fighters is ducking. I ain't even gonna lie. Some, they ducking. They wanna keep that status of being viewed as the best in the division, and they know going up against a guy like me can ruin all that.
All right, this is my first time watching the episode. I'm finally caught up, during fight week. I've had a rough few weeks, but we're back full time, pumping out content. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe. We are reviewing episode 1, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Crawford versus Porter. But before we go on and I give you some brief clips of the episode, I'm going to watch the rest of it right here and then cover part 2 tomorrow, Wednesday. It'll be out before the press conference tomorrow. I'll give you the time and everything of when the fight week press conference for Crawford versus Porter is tomorrow. It's fight week. The fight is 4 days away. Take your time out. Subscribe if you haven't. Shawn Porter, who we're going to talk about first, 31-3-1 with 17 KOs. Sebastian Formella, his only fight in 2020, closed arena, PBC Studios. PBC owned Fox Studios in LA. Errol Spence, solid pay-per-view. I really enjoyed that card top to bottom, and I didn't think that both Shawn Porter and Errol Spence could actually have the charisma to sell the pay-per-view, but everything was good. I'm even talking about the closing post-fight press conference. It was awesome. He lost that fight. He lost his WBC title to Errol Spence. He came in with the IBF title. He lost his WBC title. Spence was the IBF champion. Yordenis Ugas, a lot of people felt that he lost that fight. And me personally, I believe in my post-fight video, I said something like he didn't do enough, meaning Yordenis Ugas, to actually beat the champion. Danny Garcia was a fight that many thought that his activity and movement would win him the fight, which it did. Adrian Granados. Now, those outside of the Formella fight, Errol Spence, Ugas, Danny Garcia, Adrian Granados. I was at the Andre Berto fight. Andre Berto was still somewhat of a name. He fought Mayweather, but a lot of people, we knew going into the fight that he was done. Keith Thurman, that was on free TV. That was CBS, right? Porter versus Thurman was on CBS, right? This day and age, it would have been pay-per-view. Adrian Broner, that was at a catch weight of, I believe, of 144 or 145. Eric Bonet, that was PBC on Spike. Kell Brook, Paulie Malignaggi, he put it into Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi has been back since, but basically his competing career, he put it into Paulie Malignaggi. Devin Alexander. So Julio Diaz was even a quality name. And Phil LaGreca, when he fought him, was undefeated. This is a very, very good resume among all weight divisions, especially in the landscape of boxing these days. But the question is, he's seen Errol Spence, okay. He's seen a pure boxer in Ugas, okay. Shawn Porter has shown that he can box, he can move when he wants to. He can be the dog, the DAWG, that one that's always in your face, giving you a hard time, throwing a lot of punches, smothering you, making you work. Or, he can try to outbox you like he did for Mella. And now he did boxing Yordenis Ugas. And who else did he move a lot against? He did box against Danny Garcia. So he's not just a slugger brawler. And he has a high ring IQ. But outside of Errol Spence, has he seen someone as good as Terence Crawford? No. And when you think about the big fights that he was supposed to, lose, he did lose. And people are predicting him to lose this fight. But one thing I can say before we move on to Terence Crawford and go into more detail, I'm actually going to do a jump cut and I'm going to watch the rest of the episode and then pick out some clips and we're going to talk about it. But 37-0 with 28 KOs, this dude is good. Right hand, left hand, he's showing he's got the chin, the power. But when you look at his resume at 147 pounds, he hasn't met anyone like Shawn Porter. Jose Benavidez, that was a very good fight to me. Jose Benavidez, of course, you know, the leg issues. Jeff Horn didn't really stand a chance. Jeff Horn just don't have the skill set to compete at high level at 147 pounds. I know the Aussie fans are going to get pissed like, what, Mike? He beat Manny Pacquiao, Mike. All right, whatever. But he made his real bones at 135 and 140 pounds, because I'm going to go ahead and say it. I do feel that PBC was doing everything possible to keep Terence Crawford away. Can you really blame them when they have so many guys at 147 to fight? Like, why would we fight you when we can fight the guys on our side of the street? I get it to an extent, but you can't go around saying you're the best while, you know, you got this other fighter out there who they told him to go get a belt, which he did, the WBO. Like, it just, you know, and then with the fans, because PBC has some very, very hardcore fans. You know, so the smear campaign on Terence Crawford, I just thought it was fucked up. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, and I really feel that Al Heyman and PBC were doing it intentionally. Like, you know what, now we ain't going to fight him because eventually he going to run out of opponents and he going to need us and he going to have to leave Top Rank to come over to us. You know, I mean, can you really blame him in business? But at the same time, I saw right through it. I was like, yo, they're going to freeze him out. But we had one fighter in Shawn Porter who wanted the fight. From my understanding, Terence Crawford wanted to go straight towards Errol Spence, because he said something along the lines on a media call he did last week. He said something along the lines of that he kind of knew, I'm just, you know, paraphrasing, that he pretty much knew that they were going to try to use Shawn Porter, you know, as like bait. All right, well, you know, like, let him fight, you know, Errol Spence and Keith Thurman leftovers. No disrespect to Shawn when I'm saying that. But Shawn didn't really have too many options, you know, because, you know, when you look at the money he's making, allegedly rumored $4 million, Terence Crawford, $6 million. I'm sorry, I haven't even given you the particulars yet. It's going to be, and I put the link right down below in the description box, it's going to be $69.99 on ESPN Plus exclusive pay-per-view. The UFC model. I like it, even though I love being able to use my DVR to watch the fights on my cable. But one difference between the Showtime, if you're buying a fight through the Showtime platform and not on your, like, through your cable or dish provider, is you can't DVR it. You can't fast forward or rewind or save it or watch it later on. I learned that the hard way with the Charlo Derevianchenko doubleheader. Whereas in ESPN Plus, you can actually fast forward, pause, or rewind if you got to go do other things. And the undercard is really good. I put that also down below in the description box. It's not up on BoxRec yet, you know, but I didn't forgot what it was. But anyway, take your time out, like the video, subscribe. We're going to talk a little bit more after I watch the episode. We're going to be jumping in and out.
Transferring to the fight.
My dad, at 33, my dad is softer on me than he was probably when I was 13. Definitely much softer than he was when I was 23.
Let me tell you about Shawn Porter. Instead of doing defense, guess what? I don't want to do what you just told me to do. I'm going to hit him. That's not what I'm asking for. Resist doing what you want to do and what I'm asking you to do. Basic, fundamental, offense, defense.
We've had some situations where we really butted heads and it got really ugly. Got really ugly to the point where I did have those thoughts of, you know, hey, I can't with him anymore.
If you're in and out, commit to it. If you're slipping, commit to it. If you're pivoting, commit to it.
From the outside in, people look and they say, oh, he's being hard on that guy. You know what? Everything that you deal with in this ring is hard.
Get down to the body when...
Let's talk about that. One thing I was thinking about is, what style do you think, and let me know down below in the comments, Terence Crawford and both Shawn Porter are going to come out. Is Terence Crawford going to come out trying to make a statement, you know, and get him out of there? Because after all, you know, he would, you know, he did mention a few times that, or it was asked to him a few times, does he have to feel in media engagements, does he feel he has to put on a better performance in Errol Spence, and would a knockout mean something to him? Now, I'm not thinking he can knock out Shawn Porter. Some people are. You know, and the fact that how many of his opponents has he stopped? There's been a lot, right? Let's go look at it. He has stopped his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opponents since Victor Postol. And I was going to bring him up too because he fought a very cautious and respectful fight against Victor Postol on pay-per-view. And that's the only guy he hasn't stopped since Ray Beltran in November of 2014. You see what I'm saying? So what fight is he going to come out and, he stopped Jose Benavidez in the 12? So is he going to come out like, all right, I'm going to, go out there and try to like put a boot in his ass? Or is he going to box? Shawn Porter has Tank Davis in his camp. And who else is in his camp? Somebody let me know down below in the description box. And they are preparing for if Terence Crawford, which he normally does. Sometimes I consider, even BoxRec says it right here, I think that he's a southpaw fighter. I really do. I really think that Terence Crawford is a southpaw fighter, but they do the whole right hand thing. But I think dominantly he's a southpaw fighter because he always switches, and normally he finishes the fight southpaw. You see what I'm saying? So I think that was a good strategy for them, like building up his career to make it seem like he was an orthodox right-hander, but really he's southpaw, because the commentary, even on his fights on HBO, they always feed to it. Like he can switch to southpaw whenever he wants. He can beat you southpaw, but he's primarily a right-hand fighter. Now, Shawn Porter, as we talked about in fights like against Yordenis Ugas, Errol Spence, he wasn't really trying to box. He was trying to put on the pressure. Danny Garcia, he boxed. I don't remember, even though I covered it, the videos on the channel, I don't remember what style he fought against Adrian Granados. I know against Andre Berto, he put a boot in his ass. Keith Thurman, he definitely was chasing him around the ring. He also boxed against Adrian Broner when a lot of people thought he was going to go out there and just bully Adrian Broner and just beat him up from pillar to post for as long as it lasted 12 rounds. Now, one thing to look at is, can Shawn Porter stop Terence Crawford? I'm talking about one punch stopping power. We've seen Terence Crawford get dropped by Kavalauskas. We've seen him take a mean punch from Dirigeant. Even Jose Benavidez tested him. Yurkis Gamboa, all smaller fighters. Shawn Porter's last stoppage was against Andre Berto back in 2017. And then before that against Eric Bonet. Okay, all right, but how do you really count that? So it's going to be interesting to see what style that they're going to fight. By the way, I did pull up the undercard for you to see right here. I have it down below in the description box. As I told you, I'm sorry. Hey, listen, I was in a coma a few years back. My memory's still recovering. So if you watch my videos sometimes, you notice I'll be forgetting like basic shit, that shit I'm supposed to know in boxing, like who fought who and all that. So I'm just putting that little disclaimer out there. And I smoke a lot of pot now too, but I was told that, it's going to take, hopefully it's going to take, a little bit of time for my, memory to get really back, because I be forgetting like a lot of shit, like, daily, not just out in boxing. But the undercard, Esquiva Falco versus Patrice Volney, middleweights, both ranked. Janabek Alim Kunuli versus Hassan Indam. Alim Kunuli, what is he again? He's ranked at 160. There he is. Yes, he's creeping up on the title shot at 160. He's ranked by the WBO. He beat up Rob Brandt. Rob Brandt had won against Murata. Murata's taking on Golovkin December the 29th. Also on Top Rank on Prime Video over in Japan, or however they're going to label it. But yeah, and the zone here in the States, meaning Golovkin versus Murata. Here he is also by the WBC. Yes, both of these are spellings of his name, but I'll make sure our editor of the website gets that sorted. Shout out to Mikey. Our rankings are updated in accordance with the sanctioning bodies monthly: WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO, and Ring. FightView360.com. Down below in the description box. Also, follow me on Twitter at T Street Controversy and at FightView360, and on Instagram at T Street Controversy. Boom. Oh, one more. Oh, the WBC channel has a app powered by the Vive network. The WBC is currently having their 59th annual convention, where news just came out that news just came out that the WBC is lobbying for Tyson Fury, Dillian White, if it goes to purse bid, to be an 80-20% split. And the WBC can't make a ruling on Dillian White's mandatory status until Dillian White's lawsuit against the WBC is resolved. Boy, that can get real, awkward. But anyway, moving on. Also on the undercard, where we at, is Raymond Maritala versus Steven Ortiz. And then in a fight that's not mentioned, Isaac Dogbay versus Chris Diaz. I believe that's on the free ESPN or ESPN portion prelims. That's going to be a really, really good card. That could have been on the regular pay-per-view, for me. But once again, $69.99 over on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. So another jump cut, and I'm going to finish watching this last 8 minutes or so of the episode. And I'm going to be reviewing and recapping episode 2 tomorrow.
Be more dominating than him.
On November 20th, a welterweight super bout, decades in the making, will finally come to be.
I don't trust that music, but I did find an interesting clip right here. Let me pull it up really quick. And here's the thing. I wonder if this is, I'll let Kenny Porter say it.
From one another. Until
listen to this.
Now.
Terence Crawford has known me for a long time, so he knows that I can box. He knows that I can use the ring, and he knows that I got some power.
Give me 2 of those.
So there won't be any surprises in terms of the way he's going to prepare for me.
Don't be lazy.
Contacted Terence 2 years ago. He didn't want to fight Shawn. He was contacted a year ago. Told Shawn, well, I got a couple other things going on. If things don't work out, I'll give you a call. He never gave us a call. He don't want this fight. It's here, but he doesn't really want it.
The difference between you and the other person.
What y'all think about that? Do you think he doesn't want it because he's scared? That he knows that Shawn Porter can beat him? How some fighters, they'll be like, nah, I don't want that fight right now. Because, a lot of fans will feel that they can't beat him and they want to not mess up a future payday, like one with a possible Errol Spence. Also, we don't know what's going on with Errol Spence yet. Errol Spence, WBC IBF champion, was recovering from an eye injury. And according to your Dennis Ugas, him and Ugas had a contract to fight in February of this year. Of 2022, possibly on pay-per-view. And Ugas was bitching and complaining because Ugas is stuck in a WBA tournament where he must defeat Amantis Stanionis next, that the WBA ordered that he has to fight him or he has to drop his title. And then after that, the winner of that has to fight Radhab Butayev, who defeated Jamal James a couple of weeks back to win the WBA world. It's a part of the WBA being forced, understand, a lot of fans are not understanding, forced to consolidate and get rid of all of their belts and have just one champion in each division. So your Dennis Ugas is pretty much tied up for the first half of 2022, at least. Let's say, for example, if he says, all right, fuck it, you know what? I'll fight Stanionis in February, January. Okay, it's not January. Let's say they do it into January. Then he comes back and fights in June or August. And if he beats Stanionis, fights Butayev. He won't be able to unify a title or that title until later on in 2022, possibly second half or later. So fans are saying, well, he should drop the belt. What reason does Spence have to fight him outside of making money if it's not a belt? And that belt is very valuable because then Stanionis and Butayev will be ordered to fight for it and to be undisputed at 147, which guys like Errol Spence, Shawn Porter, and Terence Crawford want to do. Then, Ugas would just hold up the process. I mean, just my opinion. We're not going to talk too much about that. But one thing for sure is it's a lot at stake with this fight, not only for Shawn Porter, because frankly, this is probably going to be his last big shot at Terence Crawford if he loses. They're going to be like, and people said he was the boogeyman. He couldn't even do what Keith Thurman or Kell Brook, who he beat, or Errol Spence could do. So, there's a lot of pressure right there for him. But I'm interested in the fight once again on Top Rank on ESPN Plus pay-per-view, $70. Of course, I'm paying for it. We're going to be here tomorrow for the press conference, the weigh-in. On Friday, it's a ceremonial weigh-in. The undercard press conference is on Thursday, basically a full week of fights. Fight coverage of this. So we're going to be doing a live stream also for 30 minutes or so, giving a lot of you guys, the supporters and, fans of both fighters, to give your thoughts on the fight. So with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Take your time out. Like the video. It only takes a couple of seconds. Subscribe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, the link is down below in the description box at T Street Controversy.